So this is a training video for mcnear Brick and Brock, looking at just the highlights from Adobe Photoshop that you should be using to size your images for the web, as well as try to strip out as much megabytes as possible for faster page load. So Photoshop does a whole bunch of stuff, and 99.9% of it for the purpose of this particular goal we don't need. So I've opened an image here. Let's go ahead and go to image size. And you can see, okay, this is a really big image. 3664 wide, 2748 tall, and it's a whopping 38 megabytes in size, which would take 5 billion unnecessary years to load on the internet. So there's two things going on here. One is we can get some megabytes out by just sizing it down, like literally the width and the height, the pixels. So we're going to look at a couple ways to do this. First one is that I go to image size. For the sake of argument, let's say I'm trying to get this image to be 1600 pixels wide by 1000 pixels tall. Let's say that I have a requirement for the width and the height. So if I go to image size and I put in 1600, I'll see that will immediately bring me down to 7 megabits, and I'm still 200 pixels too tall. Whenever you're doing this and you're trying to decide, okay, well, which is the edge that I'm going to size by, you always want to size it so that that each side is meeting, if not exceeding, the size requirement. So in this case, I'm going to size the long edge, and then I'm going to crop the short edge. So this is okay. There are a couple things here depending upon how particular I feel about what gets cropped. There is a cropping tool right here. And if I've got like a ton to crop and I don't want to just pull it all from one side, I could play with this. And so like I could be like, okay, well, alright, I wanna get as much of the brick as possible, so I'm okay with chopping out this little bit of sky. So I'm doing that, and then I'll hit return. I'm still gonna have to make up the difference in the bottom. So if I go to image and canvas size, again, take this pixels, and this will tell me what I'm going to crop from. So in this case, I want to keep all this stuff, and I'm going to crop out this stuff, whatever I need to make it to the size that I need. And so then I'll say, okay, proceed. So now I've got it the size I want, 1600 by 1000. The image weight, the megabytes, is still pretty gosh darn big. So the next thing we can do is we can go to Save for Web. And so Save for Web automatically is going to give me a couple things here. It's going to say, here's how big it is. What file type are you saving as? I want JPEG. And then I can see down here how much has my size gone down. And so at this point, at 618 kilobytes, we're doing pretty good. It does a lot of stuff. Here it just strips out elements of the file that we just don't need for a web file. I can play with it here, quality. Like I could go I'm okay with going down to 24 quality, and then I'll see this takes to 366. I could say, I'd much rather have it at 87. No, got it a meg. I think, in general, somewhere between 50 and 60 is fine. And here it's retaining my size as well. So this way it'll fit into my grid or whatever in the way that it should. And my load speed will be optimized because this will be a pretty lightweight file. So go ahead and save it. It'll ask me what I want to name it. I would, again, be as literal as you can with your names. So whatever that means to you. And then go ahead and save it. And so what this did was it saved an additional copy for the web. It did not strip all that information out of my original image. And so those are really all the things that I need to know. There's really nothing else you need to be able to do in this for the purposes of the mcnear site as far as prepping images. And you'll notice that in the Save for Web, just if I take a look at this again, and export it again, Save for Web, it does have a sizer here. So while I can't do that cropping stuff I did where I edited the canvas, if I had a big image and all I needed to do was change the length of one side, and then strip out that information, then I could really do the entire editing process from Save for Web. And so that's it. That's just a quick overview of the things that you need to be able to do on Photoshop in order to prep your images for the web and have them be both the right physical size, so pixel count, how much space is it literally taking on the page, as well as how heavy, how dense is the file, how many kilobytes or megabytes is it taking to load. So if I were to explain the difference in a brick metaphor, so the pixels of the length of the width and the height are two-dimensional space. It's how much two-dimensional space am I taking up on the web page. When I save it for web, I'm allowing myself to retain that two-dimensional space, but I'm stripping out some of the girth, some of the weight, so that third dimension, so that it's lighter. So kind of like the difference between having like a face brick or a veneer and having like an old-fashioned full brick. The stuff that I see once it's set in is the same two-dimensional space on the wall, but that third dimension, the girth of the brick in the area that I don't necessarily see, is quite different. And so with devices and the internet, we want our content on the page to really be as light in that third dimension as possible while fitting the two-dimensional space that we need.